Let's talk Adesanya. Adesanya has been one of the most reliable box office draws the sport has had in the last half a decade. All of his numbers did exceptionally well. Every fight that he had a way of making interesting, which is the hardest thing to do. For a fighter to be a good fighter, like, boy, that's difficult. For a fighter to be in shape, for a fighter to get an opportunity, for a fighter to be signed, for fighters to have people around them that don't take all of their money and that they can actually trust, like, all of these things are rare. But nothing is more difficult than making the audience find you interesting. And Adesanya's recipe was different. It worked one time, so it was rinse and repeat after that. We have never seen a guy where we know what he's going to do next, right? We know when he's the champion at the top of the belt and he wins, we know his next fight will be a main event for the belt that he's bringing. But we've never had a guy make sure we knew who his opponent would be in as fast a fashion over and over as Adesanya. Adesanya would not leave the cage until he had his next opponent lined up. And nobody's ever done it like that. They didn't have the sense. They didn't know what to say. Put them in an awkward position. They're the champion, puts them in a bit of a leadership position. They don't want to upset anybody. Champion doesn't always call people out. Like, there's just a number of reasons why they wouldn't do it. But Izzy knew as a champion, my job is to sell. Skills don't sell. Stories sell. And Izzy would go into the current fight. I can use Robert Whittaker as an example. That was the night that Izzy unified the belt, or as he put it, defended the interim belt, which is just great. Simple stuff, but it's just great, right? This guy was just a master. He went into the Whittaker fight with a lot of anger. He had a lot of energy, a lot of emotion. And as soon as it ends, there's generally a lull. And then you got to find a way to get back to that same point. But Izzy transferred that energy. And he transferred that emotion. The moment he was done with Whittaker, he transferred those feelings into Paulo Costa, who was sitting in the front row, wearing what Izzy referred to as a something Martin t-shirt. Polly Martin? Who's that Martin? Ricky Martin. And that's how he began to do it, off of the Ricky Martin shirt. Such a small thing. But he did it. And when that business got handled, Izzy went right into letting the audience know who was going to be next. And when that got done, Joe Rogan came in the ring and tried to tiptoe around the idea of Izzy meeting up with his old nemesis, Pereira. And Izzy literally caught Joe off and said, "Stop playing games. There's not a debate on who's next. It's Alex Pereira." But other guys just didn't do this. Other guys didn't control their careers as well. Other guys didn't understand that what they say in that moment, right before we fade to black and go to the credits, right before that, you have a captivated, focused market. There is no time that you can directly speak to your buying consumer more. You can't do it on Instagram. You can't do it on Twitter. You can't do it by going on Jim Rome or popping over to Dan Le Batard. Just for example, you can't do it. Right there, that's the time. That's the moment. That's when you've got him. And he would capitalize on it every single time. So why that's so relevant is I feel our industry has been very quiet towards Adesanya lately. I think that's rude. That's the guy for 5 years that you would turn to make sure that you had interest, to make sure that you had clicks, to make sure that the audience would come back for more. And perhaps those sites that I reference have reached out to Izzy and he declined comment. Perhaps. But I feel that you still owe it to a guy who carried you and transformed the way callouts are done, showed the world that you can have an impactful meaning in your own career. You can steer your own career if you do it right. Do it like me. Watch this, then copy me. I feel a guy like that is owed a little bit more. I feel like that guy is still owed headlines. I feel like that guy is still owed a discussion. Now, one thing we know about Adesanya is Adesanya, though coming from a very different approach, his word, if you trace it back, is as good as Khabib's. Now, Adesanya came to it from an anger and an emotion, and I'm going to get my way or bust because I'm upset with this guy. Khabib came from a religious honor, your words matter background. It was very different, but everything Khabib told us you could take to the bank. Everything Adesanya tells you can take to the bank. So let's go off of what Adesanya has told us. He first told us that he will not be pursuing a rematch with Sean Strickland. He thought Sean did a very good job. He thought Sean had a very good strategy, not to mention the courage of coming out to Australia, dealing with the media, dealing with the boos, fighting him and finding a way to win. It was a sportsmanship. It was very in line with what Izzy would predictably do. It was very in line. But he had his reasons, and they were very honorable reasons. And he went out of his way to congratulate Sean Strickland, but he went even further to say, I'm not going to pursue that rematch. The next thing that I do is going to be fun. It's not going to have purpose. It's not going to have meaning. It's going to be fun. Okay, great. We don't know what that means, but we do know we're getting this from a guy who we can always take at his word. Great. Now, like anything, you have the right to change your mind. It doesn't mean that you lied previously. You changed your mind. And when Izzy changed his mind, he came out with a statement that he will not fight again until 2027. Now, Alex Pierre quickly refuted that, said, I don't believe it. I also don't believe it. I feel as though he put out one statement, which what's going to be next is for fun, and then realized, hey, a cage fight with a trained killer isn't fun, so I can't satisfy that one. And so now he's putting 2027 as a way of saying, stop asking me. I feel what we saw there was an annoyed champion. In answer of 2027, that is an annoyed champion. I think. My interpretation. But I think I'm right. So, how did we get here? I mean, how did we get here? We then got some very surprising news that Adesanya had partied what we deemed to be a little bit close to the fight with Strickland. I don't know if that incident has anything to do with this, but if we are looking at a timeline of information that we can get, even if we just did a Google search, that's going to pop up. So is there something there that Izzy's just focusing on himself right now? Is he trying to get a handle on that? That'd be a struggle for me. I don't know that I believe it, but I can't dismiss it. Then we see Izzy on TV. He's out supporting Francis Ngannou. And when we see Izzy on TV, he looked great. I mean, fighters that aren't in the room, fighters that aren't training, fighters that aren't doing relatively close to what they have been doing, do not burn as many calories, and they gain weight. It's as simple as that. It's calories in versus calories out. But Izzy, and the frame, and the leanness, and looked to me like he's still training. Looked to me like he's training just as much, but that gym specifically, Coach Eugene Berryman has a team. And anywhere else you go in MMA, in large part, broad stroke, that is a word. We've only seen two teams in MMA. The Scrap Pack was together from day one. They are together now. And City Kickboxing, but they really are together. I mean, they do everything together. They go to press conferences. They're there together. So Izzy might not be planning to compete, but if his teammates are, I suspect he's in the room. I suspect he's there cheering him on. It's exactly what he was doing in Saudi Arabia and doing at Francis' corner. Showing that support, giving that confidence, letting the Predator know the world doesn't believe on you, but of the small people that do, I'm one of them. And my opinion matters. You can beat this guy. It was a cool thing. He looked great. I believe that he's training. He says I'm not fighting until 2027, which means he's tired. He's tired of it all. Just for now, it will come back. But that fame is a drug, and most guys pursue it. They can't do anything. They will start saying things about themselves. They will start trolling. They will start saying bad things about themselves if it gets a reaction, including a negative reaction. They just need a reaction. So goddamn it, Adesanya is different. said, I'm not fighting until 2027, which is not an announcement of when his next fight will be. It means don't bother asking me about fighting unless you'd like to speak about one of my teammates. It's a very interesting thing. He's a very honorable guy. He's a very interesting guy. And one thing about him is we can take him at his word. His current word is 2027. I'm just allowing you, and I'm speaking for him now. I haven't been authorized to do that, but I am speaking for him. 2027 is not a hard and fast decision that he made. But for right now, give him a break. He's recharging. Physically, mentally, he's recharging. He's stepping back. That's all that meant. You're not going to have to wait until 2027 to see the champ fight.